The treasure trove of interview transcripts have been made public by the January 6 House Select Committee, including the full closed-door testimony of star witness and former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson. Now, in this shocking release, Hutchinson described to the committee a wide-ranging pressure campaign from former President Donald Trump's team. She says they aimed to influence her cooperation with the Congress and blocking the potentially damaging testimony against Trump. The report provides the clearest look yet at what transpired before, during and after one of the most consequential events in American history. Hutchinson says her previous lawyer, Stefan Passantino, who was also White House counsel, asked her to share as less as possible in front of the committee. As in the report, Passantino said, "The less you remember, the better." He told her it was better to risk a contempt of Congress charge than to come clean with the committee about what she witnessed, further stating that Passantino told her she would be taken care of. The lawyer also provided his services for free, and when asked by Hutchinson, he refused to answer where the money was coming in from, only to be later revealed that it was Team Trump signing the paychecks. The transcripts provide a window into previously unknown details of Hutchinson's moral struggle, when she was torn between the desire to speak the truth and to remain loyal to Trump. In a televised hearing back in June, Hutchinson went public about Trump's actions on the day of the Capitol Hill riots. Here is an excerpt from it. Listen in.
The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel, and when Mr. Renato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
In September, she returned to the committee and privately recounted the pressure campaign, details of which have now been released.
You better run, cops!
And for more on this story, we have joining us here in the studio Dr. Christina Iona Dragomir, a New York-based political analyst and adjunct assistant professor at Columbia University. Thank you so much for joining us here in the WION studio. Now, if I may ask you about this report, which is making global headlines. Needless to say, it's extremely damaging for Trump, because the report clearly concludes Trump must be barred from high office. How damaging do you really think it's likely to be for Trump and his team?
Thank you, Neha, for having me here, and hello to your audience worldwide. You rightfully said that it's damaging, but we really need to point out what kind of damage is it being made. There are two levels in which we can talk about this, right? One of that would be at the level of the media and of the level of the public awareness that people would have about this report and about the charges that are made to Trump. And the other one, and that's the most important one, are the legal charges that we have, right? So on the first account, I think it's really important for us to understand that we right now have a divided America. A divided America that is not listening to the same news, is not listening to the same type of information, and is not digesting the same type of results of the elections and right now of the findings of the committee. So as a result of it, in terms of his image, we are quite unsure that this is actually going to influence anything. It seems like the people who have been watching the report are actually the people who have been looking at Trump as a possible problem within the presidency of the White House and not his supporters. It seems that this type of report has not reached their supporters. When we talk about the legal side of it, well, it's really important to understand also that we are looking at a Congress that has made a recommendation to the Department of Justice. Trump is not being charged right now. The Department of Justice is the only one who can charge Trump and who could take the decision if they would like to charge Trump or not. So right now we are at a crossroad to see how the Department of Justice will react to this report and how will they proceed further.
You're quite right that the consequences are likely to be twofold. One really is about how this is perceived by the average Americans and the media, and how this is going to play out legally. Now, you are right in saying that the US is more divided and polarized today than ever before. However, we'll have to remember this is a bipartisan committee that seems to have come to the conclusion that the former president of that country actually played a pivotal role in triggering that insurrection at Capitol Hill. The question, therefore, then is, while you're saying the ball is now in the court of the Justice Department, what does this mean for Donald Trump's 2024 presidential bid? Because this is a very, very serious and damaging allegation, which now seems to have been proven, if you go by the findings of this committee.
It has been proven at the level of the findings of the committee, but it has not been proven legally in front of the justice system. However, we also need to see that the Congress of the United States has been having a really packed December. They have been working day and night on several acts, including this one. But what is also interesting to see is that the committee will actually dissolve in a few days. So we are looking at the dissolving committee, a committee that, well, yes, you are absolutely correct. It is bipartisan, but let's look at like who are the bipartisan. Is Liz Cheney, who unfortunately also lost the election. So it's not somebody that will be likely to be in a committee starting very soon in January. Moreover, the Republicans also said that they will probably start a committee to investigate the committee that created this. So, well, this is a really big news. And why is this a big news? This is a big news because this is the first time in the history of the United States where a former president, it is being recommended to the Department of Justice for withholding
From office and seeking his prosecution.
Right. Then this
Is
is
this unprecedented
absolutely,
in some ways?
yes, it is absolutely unprecedented. And the Congress and the committee knows this. They know that their hands are tied by the justice system, but they also know that this is going to go in the archives of history of the United States. It's going to impact the democracy of the United States, and it's going to look at how do we enforce laws in the United States, looking at elections that are going to come in the next years.
Well, we saw what happened in the midterm polls. Everyone in the Democratic Party, starting with President Biden himself, said democracy was on the ballot. And even as far as this entire episode of January 6th is concerned, it has been described by the Democrats and at least Trump critics as an assault on American democracy. Now, we will have to probably wait a while to find out what legal consequences this has. But let's now look at its political ramifications. On the one hand, yes, there are those die-hard Trump supporters, both within the Republican Party and outside, to whom it makes no difference at all. They always say it's a conspiracy against their favorite leader. But would it not be correct to say that following the outcome of the midterm elections, there are now many within the Republican Party who are increasingly uneasy with Trump's 2024 presidential bid? Do you think something like this is likely to make him a political hot potato, or?
I think that Trump made himself into a political hot potato for some time already, and we already see that there are some changes within the Republican Party. He does not longer have the support that he had in 2020 by the political party members of Congress. However, there are still the die-hard supporters of Trump. There is something to be also asked why the bid for the presidential elections was done so early, and of course there's a media coverage into this, but maybe this was also done in connection with this report that was looming over the Trump life and over the Trump campaign. So making that bid for the presidency probably wants to place him in a position in which he says this is a conspiracy and so on. However, we will have to see how much impact that will have and how much of the democratic processes are still on the line for the elections to come.
Absolutely. And another very important development that's going to happen in the United States is that come January, the Republicans are going to be in control of the House of Representatives. That could change a lot. But as you rightly pointed out, the ball is now clearly in the court of the Justice Department. On that note, thank you so much for your perspective on this very important story.
Thank you very much, Neha, for having me here. A pleasure.
Pleasure talking to you. Thank you.